I thought our marriage was unshakable, built on years of trust, laughter, and shared dreams. But beneath the surface, secrets were quietly poisoning everything I loved. When I discovered my husband's betrayal, it wasn't just the affair that shattered me, it was the truth he hid behind the lies. This is a story about love twisted into betrayal, the desperate fight to hold on, and the moment everything fell apart. If you've ever faced the darkness behind a smiling face, this story will haunt you, and maybe help you find the strength to rise again. Part 1: The Perfect Lie. I remember the day we met like it was yesterday, sunlight pouring through the cafe windows, the smell of fresh coffee lingering in the air, and his smile that seemed to light up the whole room. James was everything I thought I wanted: charming, kind, a bit mysterious, but honest when it mattered. From that moment, I was hooked. Our life together quickly became what I dreamed of since I was a child: a beautiful wedding, a cozy apartment downtown, weekend getaways, and Sunday mornings spent in bed, wrapped around each other like nothing could ever go wrong. Everyone said we were the perfect couple, and for a while, maybe we were. But perfect is a fragile thing. It starts small: these cracks in the foundation, a text message left open on his phone, a late night at work that suddenly becomes a week, the subtle change in his tone when I ask about his day. I told myself I was imagining things, that stress at work was making him distant, that we were just going through a phase. I wanted to believe. Until the day I found it. I was cleaning the apartment when I noticed a receipt tucked between the pages of his book, dinner at a restaurant I'd never heard of. The name signed with a woman's initials I didn't recognize. My heart stopped. My hands shook. I wanted to ask, to confront him, but I swallowed the fear and pushed the feeling down. Days later, I stayed late at work to avoid going home alone. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number: "I miss you." My world tilted on its axis. That night, I lay awake, replaying every moment, every word, every smile, trying to find where the lie began. The truth I wasn't ready to face was that my husband, the man I loved, was living a secret life right under my nose. I don't know how long I can pretend, how long I can hold this perfect lie together before it shatters completely. But I'm running out of time, and soon, everything will come crashing down. Part 2: Shadows in the Dark. The days after the message from the unknown number were some of the longest of my life. Every ring of my phone sent a jolt through me. Every notification felt like a warning. I kept replaying that text, "I miss you," like a secret code I couldn't decode. I wanted answers, but I wasn't ready to ask the questions that would change everything. James tried to act normal. He kissed me goodbye in the morning, smiled at dinner, and said "I love you" like nothing had changed. But I knew better. The way his eyes darted away when I caught his gaze, the way his hands trembled slightly when he thought I wasn't looking, those were the cracks. One night, I decided to follow him. I told myself it wasn't about catching him red-handed. I just needed to know the truth, even if it hurt. He left the apartment quietly, his jacket slung over one arm. I slipped on my coat and trailed him at a distance, heart pounding. He didn't go to the office. He didn't go to a bar with friends. He went to a small, dimly lit apartment building on the other side of town. I watched him buzz a code and slip inside, disappearing into the shadows. I didn't want to go in, but something inside me screamed to follow. I found the door, the faint sound of voices leaking out. I raised my hand, hesitated, then knocked softly. The door opened before I could knock again. A woman's eyes, startled, nervous, and very familiar, stared back at me. Her face was framed with dark curls and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Emma," she whispered. I felt like the ground was falling beneath me. It was her. The woman James was hiding. The woman I never expected. Part 3: Unveiling Lies. The woman in front of me, Claire, looked like she wanted to disappear, but she held her ground. Her eyes, a shade lighter than James's, glistened with something I couldn't quite place: guilt, fear, or defiance. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice trembling but steady. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I could ask you the same." James appeared behind her, his face pale and tense. For a moment, the three of us stood frozen, a fragile triangle of secrets and lies. "Emma," his voice cracked, the facade slipping, "this isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. I felt the room spin as years of trust and love unraveled before me. Claire's voice broke the silence. We never meant for you to find out like this. It just happened. Just happened? I repeated, disbelief cutting through me like a knife. You betrayed me, both of you. For how long? James looked down. Months. Months. That one word echoed in my head like a death sentence. My hands trembled, tears burning in my eyes. Why? Because I felt lost, James said, voice barely a whisper. I thought we were drifting apart. And you didn't think talking to me could fix that? I asked, voice shaking with pain and fury. No, he admitted. I was scared. The weight of their betrayal was suffocating, but amidst the chaos, a sliver of cold clarity settled inside me. This wasn't just a broken marriage. It was a lie, one I had to confront, no matter the cost. Part 4, Fractured Worlds. I stumbled back into the cold night, the bitter air hitting my face like the harsh reality I refused to accept. My mind was a whirlwind of pain, disbelief, and shattered dreams. Months of whispered lies, stolen moments, and broken promises were all laid bare, and the person I thought I knew was gone. James's betrayal wasn't just a fracture in our marriage. It felt like an earthquake that had torn apart every foundation of my life. For hours, I wandered the streets, trying to piece together what had happened, trying to understand how love could dissolve into such a jagged mess of lies. Every memory played back like a cruel film. The mornings he kissed me gently awake. The late night talks about our future. The promises he whispered in the dark. All of it, a carefully crafted illusion. I thought I was strong, but that night I realized how deeply I'd been broken. The next days blurred into a haze of cold coffee, sleepless nights, and tear-streaked mornings. I avoided friends, drowning in a silence louder than any accusation. And yet, amidst the wreckage, a stubborn part of me clung to hope. Maybe this was a test. Maybe there was still a way to salvage something real. But the truth kept gnawing at me. How could I rebuild trust when the very person who was supposed to protect me had shattered it so completely? Then, one morning, I found a note slipped under the door. It was from Claire. Emma, I never wanted to hurt you. Please let me explain. The words stabbed through me. Anger bubbled up. How dare she ask for understanding? But curiosity, that dangerous thing, pulled me toward a meeting. I needed to know everything. Why had she gotten involved? What did she see in him that I didn't? The next day, I met Claire at a quiet coffee shop. She looked nervous, her hands twisting a napkin like a lifeline. I was lonely, she began. James made me feel special when I was at my lowest. I didn't plan this. It just happened. Her confession wasn't an apology, it was a confession drenched in regret and pain. I wish I'd walked away, but I didn't know how. Listening to her, I felt a complicated mix of emotions, anger, pity, betrayal, and a strange sympathy. Because beneath her mistakes was a woman broken in her own way. The reality hit me hard. This wasn't just about James's betrayal. It was about all of us, damaged and trying to survive in different ways. I left the cafe feeling hollow, but also strangely awake. My world had fractured. But maybe, just maybe, it wasn't beyond repair. Part 5, Picking Up the Pieces. The days following my meeting with Claire were a storm of conflicting emotions. Her words lingered in my mind like a bitter aftertaste, loneliness, regret, pain. It was hard to hate someone who was just as broken as I was, but the betrayal still cut like a jagged blade. James was silent. I avoided him, and he avoided me. The apartment, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt cold and empty, a ghost of the life we had built together. I couldn't sleep. Every night, the silence screamed around me, echoing with questions I had no answers for. How could I trust again? Could I even remember who I was before all of this? My friends tried to reach out, but I pushed them away. How could I explain the ache inside me? The humiliation? The heartbreak? I was supposed to be married to my best friend, my partner in everything. Instead, I felt like a stranger in my own life. One evening, as I sat staring blankly at the ceiling, my phone buzzed. It was a message from James. I'm sorry, I want to make things right. I didn't respond. Instead, I spent hours writing in my journal, pouring out the pain, the confusion, the tiny flickers of hope that dared to shine through the darkness. I wrote about the moments when James held me close, the times when I thought our love could weather any storm. But I also wrote about the lies, the stolen nights, and the unbearable loneliness that had crept in. After days of silence, James showed up at my door. His eyes were red, and he looked exhausted, like a man carrying the weight of his mistakes on his shoulders. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said softly. "I just want to be honest with you, no more lies." For the first time, I saw the man behind the mask, broken, scared, and searching for redemption. But the question remained, could I find the strength to forgive? Could I rebuild what was lost, or was it time to let go? I didn't have the answers yet, but one thing was clear: I couldn't stay in the shadow of betrayal forever. I needed to find myself again, to pick up the pieces and decide who I wanted to be, with or without him. Part 6, The Crossroads. The days after James's visit blurred between tentative conversations and unbearable silences. Neither of us knew how to cross the chasm that had opened between us, but neither wanted to give up completely, or at least, I thought that was true. I started seeing a therapist, someone to help me untangle the mess inside my heart. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, sitting with my pain, naming the betrayal, feeling the raw edges of my grief. But with every session, a new strength began to grow inside me, a quiet fire refusing to be extinguished. James, meanwhile, tried to show me he was committed. He canceled plans with Claire, gave me his phone password, and attended counseling sessions with me. His actions were a slow, shaky attempt to rebuild trust, but every step forward felt fragile. Still, something in me was shifting. I realized I didn't want to be a victim anymore. I wanted to be someone who chose her own path, even if it meant walking it alone. One afternoon, I found myself sitting in our empty living room, sunlight streaming through the windows. The silence wasn't so heavy this time, it felt like space for something new. I pulled out a photo album, flipping through pictures of happier times. James smiling at me during our wedding, our first trip to the beach, the silly faces we made during lazy Sundays. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but they were different now, not just sorrow, but acceptance. Those memories were part of my story, but they didn't define my future. That night, I sat James down. "I need time," I said, voice steady but gentle. "Time to heal, to figure out if there's anything left for us." He nodded, relief and sadness mixed in his eyes. "I'll wait," he said softly. But deep down, I knew this was about me, reclaiming my power, choosing myself for once. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was ready to face it. No matter what happened next, I was done living in the shadow of betrayal. Part 7, Breaking Free. The weeks that followed were the hardest I'd ever faced. Each day was a battle between hope and heartbreak, between holding on and letting go. James kept trying, calls, messages, small gestures, but I held my ground. I needed to be sure this wasn't just another chapter of the same story. Therapy sessions became my anchor. I learned to face the pain, to listen to my own voice amid the chaos. One evening, after a particularly raw session, I walked into our living room and saw James sitting quietly, head bowed. "I'm not the same man you married," he said, voice thick with regret, "but I want to be better. For you. For us." I looked at him, feeling the weight of years, the depth of betrayal, but also a flicker of compassion. "Maybe," I whispered, "but I need to know you mean it." The days stretched on. Slowly, I saw glimpses of the man I once loved, but I also saw a stranger struggling to make amends. I realized that forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past, it was about reclaiming my peace. And when I finally told James the first needed space, real space, it wasn't a rejection but a declaration of my strength. I chose myself. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I learned to love myself first. Walking away was the hardest thing I ever did. But it was also the beginning of my freedom. Part 8, Rising from the Ashes. The day I left our home, the weight I had carried for months began to lift, slowly, but surely. Walking away didn't feel like defeat. It felt like reclaiming my life, my identity, my power. The first weeks were brutal, loneliness pressed hard, memories haunted every corner, and doubt whispered cruel lies, but I refused to let those shadows define me. I surrounded myself with people who loved me, who reminded me of who I was beyond betrayal and heartbreak. I discovered new passions, things I'd forgotten amid the chaoses: painting, running, writing. Each small victory was a brick in rebuilding the person I thought I'd lost. James and I spoke rarely. Our conversations were honest but distant, filled with gratitude for the good and respect for the pain we caused each other. I realized some love stories don't end with forever, but that doesn't mean they aren't meaningful. My heart had broken, yes, but it was also stronger. I was no longer a victim of betrayal. I was a woman who survived it, who chose herself, her happiness, her future. And those scars remain. They are reminders not of weakness, but of strength. This is my story, not just of loss, but of rising from the ashes, fierce and unbroken.